let's just call a spade, an ace an ace, and honestly, a $5 prostitute a $5 prostitute. Let's just keep it very much a stack. We're not getting the anime community back to the way it was. Like, if we really sat here and just thought about all the things that has happened recently, much less just over the years in the course of time as anime gotten more mainstream, getting back to what we had, the nicheness, the not so big groups, the, guys in the corner that just go out there and just talk about the random ass anime that exists out there, we're not getting that back. And it's a bit unfortunate, obviously. And that's literally with basically any damn thing. Because, yeah, the niche stuff goes away from being niche into mainstream stuff. And then when you get more people to come in, you get a lot more confusion, a lot more people being dumb, and a lot more people just being a head ass just so they can be in head ass. And that's just kind of how it is. And unfortunately, that's just kind of what the anime community has dived back into. And it will probably always stay like that from this point going forward. Now, I'll be absolutely honest. A lot of people, when they think anime community, they often think of large majority of people come from different places that just happen to have like a, passion for one show or one thing about it and kind of just go on about it. And that's why you have all these conventions and things of sort like that in kind of existence for. But for me personally, I always have never really been, seen myself into such a community. In fact, as you probably heard me in the last video, I don't really join up on any groups at all. It could just be from something, political or something serious, but at the very same time, it's also things that sort like anime as well. Like, I have never really thought myself to be a part of the anime community. Like, just to keep very much a stack, I always kind of was just like, what, if you like the same things that I kind of like, or we on the same wavelength, we can understand each other, then welcome aboard. And that's kind of how it is. And that's kind of what this channel was, right? It's just like, if you don't necessarily like, a lot of the other stuff, that's perfectly fine. But I'm here to find people that is equally liking the same kind of things that I do, or can see where I'm liking the same things, so we can have that reasoning with each other. And basically roll it out like it's some type of small friend group. That's kind of how I always been when it comes down to basically anything, right? Hell, when it comes to Genshin, even when it comes to something like that, like, sure, it'd be cool if I, got the name out into that community, but at the very same time, I'm also mainly just here to chill with people that also like the hell out the game as well as much as I do too. And that's why sometimes you'll just get a Genshin video. Like, I would like to talk about, the BS of dropping Veresa and Inton in the same next patch, and I don't got the primo gems for all of this, and this is why it sucks to be a free-to-play player. But at the very same time, I know a lot of you guys don't come here for that. That being said, that's not going to stop me from making a damn video. If I want to talk about Lamine and her ass crack and why it's so delicious, we're going to talk about it. But at the very same time, my whole point is, I just come here to talk about it and yap. And essentially, if someone else likes it too, then sure, let's go ahead and chill together and just talk about this type of stuff, right? Where now, a lot of things, when they get mainstream, now you just get a lot of random stuff that doesn't necessarily matter, and you basically lost the plot of the game. Now it's like, oh, if you are from this timeline and being born here, then you obviously don't know anything about anime, you don't know what's going on and stuff like this. And then at the very same time, you get people of the newer generations to just completely disrespect everything and not necessarily know what the hell they are even talking about, right? And obviously, one of the main things that we have seen, like for yesterday and I think yesterday and the day before, was that people didn't know who the hell Haruhi Suzumiya was. I understand Haruhi Suzumiya at this point is pretty much an old show. It pains me to say that the 2000s is that old, but it really is at this point, and it pains me every single time. But when it comes down to it though, essentially, yeah, we have people saying that they didn't know what Haruhi Suzumiya was. They didn't understand the cultural impact of what it was landing when it comes down to the whole show and everything about it. I'll keep it very much stacked. I don't know anything about Haruhi Suzumiya to the highest extent, but I have seen at least clips. I have seen at least a little bit of story context and reviews of people kind of talking about it, and while I don't fully understand the whole grasp of Haruhi, I even knew it was popular as hell, right? Even I knew if people were making like mad amount of memes over it, I'm like, oh yeah, there's probably something here, isn't there? There's probably something here that's, something that we probably ain't seen, but hell, it might be something very popular that people might know. And for me personally, I've only seen one episode of Haruhi Suzumiya, and after one episode, I immediately shut off because I absolutely do not like Haruhi's personality. I just don't care for it. No, I'm good. But that being said, with recent talks about Kudere recently, I end up understanding Yuki Nagato from that show. And then I'm like, oh, if it wasn't for her, we wouldn't have the standard of Kudere characters like my Koneko. Hell, Koneko probably wouldn't even existed if it wasn't for someone like Yuki Nagato. So at the end of the day, I understand it has its importance. Maybe not in the ways that a lot of people think, but for me, in that aspect, it does have its importance. And just going out of the way being like, oh, it's Diddy's wannabe club with a stretched penis and 10 bottles of beer. Like, what is that title and what are you even talking about? I'm not sitting here and saying you gotta watch the show to understand completely why it's a big deal or anything like that, but you should definitely, if you have any shred of liking towards anime, or if you've been in the community long enough, you would know that these shows are hella important from shaping shows and things of the present into the future. It's why we go on a damn tirade a lot of the times when it comes down to Lolly, because a lot of people be like, yeah, Lolly is some weird ass stuff and it's just not being my cup of tea and all that. That's perfectly fine, but in the end of the day, you can't just sit here and ignore that Lolly didn't do anything, because it did. It created basically the damn foundation of how anime is currently right now. And even though anime is slowly starting to change up in certain ways, it still is the damn foundation, and you're not getting rid of that foundation because it's literally integrated with anime's DNA. So even as much people might hate it, as much people might not like it, at the end of the day, you're not getting rid of that shit. It doesn't matter. You're not getting rid of it, and it's affected way more places in cultures when it comes to just having Lolly in there than you probably even realize. And it is even worse when people from all different groups can't come through and have a healthy ass discussion about a certain show or about a certain trope or things of the sort like that, because people want to get nitpicky or basically be just direct assholes, or just in general just being not knowing of anything. And it's just like, bro, we just trying to have a nice conversation. Why does it have to just ultimately turn into a battle of you shut the hell up, or I didn't know this shit so back off, or I had 3 eggs in the morning, what does that have to do with anything? Basically just adding whatever nonsense reason because they want to add any other nonsense reasons. Like, if you look at old arguments from back in the day, really thinking about them, like, let's say, for example, oh, that yaoi manga, that shit's a little weird, not gonna lie. That's a bit gay if you ask me. And then you have, like, a little bit of debate and a bit of a talking point from that. You move on. Perfectly fine. Nowadays, you have that same debate, you're gonna get called some bigoting words. You're gonna be called in some weird ass fashion. Or people just straight up hate you and try to do some wild and ass shit to harm you in real life. Because for people now, it's that deep. It actually goes that far. And it's really weird. And people be like, well, the people that Naruto run, wear headbands everywhere and do all that stuff, they're weird. But you trying to send someone an actual death threat and stuff, you don't think that's all the same level, or at least a different type of weird that's basically kind of feeling the same exact way? I don't understand these new people. But when you get a whole group of people like this now, and ultimately that's how most conversations end up going, especially online, it just leads the people that were OGs that are still perfectly fine talking about all this stuff, and new people that genuinely wants to talk about this stuff in a more positive way and just in general kind of have fun with the subject. At least I'm basically hanging out to dry, and now everybody kind of hates each other and all this type of difference in stuff that doesn't even matter when it comes to anime coming to the conversation. And it's like, but why would you do this? Why would you do any of this? And that's why channels like myself comes in, because it's like, I can't talk to the main big majority of people, even though this channel I want it to grow. I can't really sit here and just talk to the big ass majority of people when it comes down to it. I can only talk to the people that genuinely likes the same things that I prefer or have the same headspace as I do. And then if we get more people into it, that's perfectly fine. Let's go ahead and do some things. But when it comes down to it though, trying to speak to the vast majority of everyday people that comes in every single day, it's not an easy task. This isn't the small group where it's like, oh, do you watch this one thing? Oh, cool, let's actually talk about this shit for a little bit. It ain't that anymore. It's like, I don't know, some type of status thing or a hierarchy thing or whatever the hell. I don't really understand why it turned like this. I don't really get why this is the way it has to be, but it just is now. What I really see when it comes down to the anime community of today is really smaller communities that's kind of carrying it when it comes down to it, because I'll be honest, it feel like anytime when I think of the idea of an anime community and people that just into anime, it kind of appeals towards people that were basically outcasts and, you know, not necessarily accepted by a wide range of people. And when you get those type of people to come through together to watch something, to talk about something and just enjoy it, it ends up becoming something fantastical. It kind of ends up becoming something that we don't really get to see a lot of these days anymore, unless something is really new and not a lot of people know about it. And now it feels like with these smaller channels, these smaller communities, it's just like we're just basically holding up the last bit of the outcast that we all are and that we kind of all represent when it comes down to it, right? It's basically, at this point, we're looking at a shattered and, you know, dysfunctional ass community, but in a way it's not like it's gone for good, because obviously we still here, but it's not necessarily gonna be on that wide scale as we have it anymore. And that's why, you know, we just kind of have these little division areas in small communities as we kind of do. So overall, that's like a fair ass reason as to, you know, why the community ain't gonna be the same anymore, right? It's just not going to be. But just because on a wider scale it's not gonna be that way doesn't mean it has to be that way for everybody else. And, you know, if this channel were to grow up and, you know, actually be something bigger than what it is, for certain, you know, I would make sure that, or at least I would try to make sure we don't forget about what made anime, you know, what it is, and why we came here to, you know, watch these shows in the first damn place. Because we wasn't socially accepted. It wasn't anybody that, you know, people cared for, and we was just a weird one out. And when it comes down to it, you know, having other people of that caliber to come through, you know, and talk about the things that we actually like without being on some type of weird ass timing, you know, it's actually enjoyable. It's actually enjoyable to be in the space and kind of talk amongst the people that, you know, we're also outcasted. And even with certain situations when it comes to the current anime community, outcasted by them, so we could just form our own small places. If you got people that you really enjoy talking anime about and just enjoy certain things with, and even if they might be a small friend group or whatever, I'll be honest, what more do you really need? You don't really need all that, but what more do you really need? It'd be great if you could do this on like a grand spectrum of a scale again, but what more could you really ask for than just some good ass friends, some good ass times, and just to talk about whatever the hell you want to talk about? Whether it's Reese's titties are too damn big or they ain't not big enough, doesn't necessarily matter. As long as you just having an enjoyable time with your peoples, I would say that's really the most valuable thing in the entirety of what this community has taught really anybody and everybody, is that friendship is high key, you know, a boring as freak lesson, but at the very same time one of the more valuable lessons that you can absolutely have. So that's really all I want to say for this one, I guess, when it comes down to it. I don't know, I'll just, with a lot of people kind of talk about the anime community airing out their grievances with everybody and everything, I also kind of want to just come back and really jump back on it like on a wider scale of the subject again, because yeah, this community right now as a whole, just as a whole when it comes to anime, sucks ass. But when you really look at the smaller subspecies of it and look at the smaller groups that is involved into it, you get some golden shit there that honestly is worth your time. And hopefully that's what something of this channel kind of has been for a fair amount of y'all. So, you know, just enjoy your time. But that's really all I want to say for this one. So hopefully you did enjoy. If you did, be sure to like, share, subscribe, hit the bell notification on the way out. Also follow the socials. Any links to donate to the channel, Kofi and Cash Out is available as well. And this one is YJ, signing off. Have a blessed day.